So something very interesting has happened in Osun State, and honestly, I want us to look at this one very carefully. Governor Demola Adeleke has once again reaffirmed his support for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu ahead of the 2027 presidential election, and immediately these dissidents came out and the juniors started talking. Because remember, politics is really just about what a politician says. Sometimes it is about what people think the statement means. Governor Adeleke has been very clear about his position. He has repeatedly said that he supports President Tinubu, describing him as the leader of the Southwest and saying that his support is in the interest of the region. So on the surface, this isn't exactly a brand new position from the governor. But what made this particular moment interesting was the reaction that followed. Then, Minister of Aviation, Fethalas Gayama, reacted to the governor's declaration, and his response was basically, agreement is agreement. Now, that particular statement immediately caught the buzz's attention, because Nigerians started acting. Agreement about what? Was there actually an agreement between the two political camps? Was this simply a political endorsement, or was there something more to it that the public wasn't being told? And that is where this story becomes really interesting. Because once that statement hit social media, the reactions were pouring in. Some people accused Governor Adeleke of being selfish. Some asked how a governor could publicly support President Tinubu when many Nigerians are complaining about the hardship in the country. Others took a completely different position. They basically said, look, Adeleke is the governor of Osun State. Its first responsibility is to the people of Osun State. So if you believe supporting the president is politically or economically beneficial at social states, why shouldn't he do it? And then your art people accusing politicians of treating the 9 agendas like peace on a chessboard. And honestly, that was one of the biggest questions this whole situation raises. And then of course there's another person whose reactions make the story even more interesting, the video. David was not just a random celebrity in this particular story. He is Govindanik's nephew, and he was very vocal around the political battles involving his uncle. We have seen the video publicly criticizing President Tinubu and raised concern about democracy and the political situation in Nigeria. So when you put those previous statements aside, Adeleke's current political position, the governor, people naturally start asking questions. How do you reconcile the two positions? Is it possible who members of the same families who have completely different political opinions? Absolutely. But because the video was such a visible supporter of his uncle, his previous statements inevitably become part of the conversation. Then we move forward. After the election, we send congratulatory messages coming in. I'm also sort of Peter be congratulating Govlading Wiki while reminding Nigerians about those who lost their lives in a democratic process. And I think that part is very important because sometimes when we talk about elections, we focus so much on the voters and the political calculations that we forgot the ordinary people who actually bear the consequences. Elections are not supposed to be about political goddaughters alone. They are supposed to be about the people. But then came another interesting development. Governor Adeleke's camp pushed back against the interpretation that there was some kind of political agreement with President Tinubu. The government's position was that its support for Tinubu was based on regional consideration, essentially that Tinubu is from Southwest. I was supporting him as the Yorubastan and leader of the region. And this is where I think we need to slow down because there are actually two different things happening here. The one is, I support Tinubu because I believe supporting him is good for my region. And the other is, I have an agreement with Tinubu. Those two statements are not necessarily the same thing. And that is why chaos, agreements, is arguments, comment generated so much curiosity. So what do you think? Is Governor Adeleke simply playing politics? Is he putting the interest of our true states and the Southwest ahead of party politics? Or do you think politicians sometimes make political calculations that ordinary voters are not fully aware of? Because at the end of the day, politicians will make their alliance, they will make their endorsements, they will make their political calculations, but the people are still the ones who live with the consequences, and that for me is the bigger conversation. The politicians owe voters an explanation for the political alliance they make. Let me know what do you think, like what do you really think? And please don't just say Adeleke is right or Adeleke is wrong. Tell me why. because I really want to hear how Nigerians are interpreting this one.